Before we start this video, a large thank you to Jeremiah, Nav, and Aurelio for their support on Patreon. I hope you guys enjoy the video. And an immense thank you to HaloBurner for their continued support of the channel this month on Patreon. It is always appreciated, my friend, and I hope you enjoy the video. How's it going, guys? I miss programming. We're going to go back to that now and add some new content. So first, though, if you try to join on a server with new netcode, it's going to check this out. It's going to give you this error because it gave us a warning. If you try to make a server or a host on the same port while it's already open, you can't do that anymore. It won't let you. There's a very simple fix for this in terms of testing. All you got to do is start your other host on a different port temporarily. So we'll just go 1-digit step below. We'll go from 777 to or 4 7s to 4 6s. And then we'll stop, and then we'll change them back to 7s, and then start as client, and boom, you're good. But we do have an error. This is because, I think this is going to be because we're trying to get the player when he's not there yet. Let me go check this out. Yeah, okay, so we're trying to get the network manager when it's not booted up yet. So I showed this before. What you want to do is make a local player variable anywhere. We already have a bunch of these. Honestly, you can reference other ones, like on the input manager. I'm going to make one though in the player UI manager, just for UI elements. You don't need to do this. You can reference it somewhere else, like the world save manager or the input manager. But do that, and then on network spawn, come down here, and if you are the host or the owner of this object, obviously this is local to you. You want to set your player UI manager.local player to this, because on network spawn, if you're the player, you are the owner, this is your player, set up your player with the player UI local player. So now you can use this everywhere instead of doing the thing we've been doing for a long time now and fetching the player via the network manager.single.local player, and just change it to this. Now, it's not a big deal. I've noticed here too, my hands aren't loading in, so I've got a bug here somewhere. This is for the client. So if I go to on hand equipment change for loading other players, I can see it looks fine. No, I'm loading the head equipment over here, so I'm going to change that to hand. And I'm going to test that real fast and go back and make sure that's all well and good. And yes, his hands and gloves are there. We're good to continue. Okay, cool. So you can still fetch the player if you want via the network manager in some instances, but it's best just to use a variable here, this one place. You just call it one time. Honestly, I should have did that before, but I was just going with what I had. It's not necessarily wrong. It's just more nice and neat if you just call it from one place like this all the time. So I might go and replace those as I see them to just going over and fetching it from the player UI manager. Now, on to the topic of the video. We're going to make it so we can collect runes, update our UI, and get runes from enemies, because the next video we're going to do leveling up. So, flasks. I'm just going to copy this and make one for runes. Now, you can make this a network variable if you want. If you want to be able to see other players' runes for some weird effects you might have in game, or some things you need, if you need to see this as a public network variable, put it here. I don't need to do that. I'm going to copy ELDEN exactly, so I'm going to put this on the player stats manager, because at no point in the game do you need to know how many runes I have, or do I need to know how many runes that you have. So I am going to drop back over here, and I'm going to just make a public int for runes, and I'm going to set it initially at 0. This is again under the player stats manager. Now let's go to the player UI manager, and I'm going to make some quick UI for our rune counter, which will be in the bottom right corner. I'm going to just temporarily disable this loading screen too, because it's kind of in the way of me actually seeing where I want to put this. But for now, I'm just going to make an empty game object under the HUD manager called runes. I'm going to drag it to the bottom right corner because I believe that's where it is in Elden Ring, or I know that's where it is in Elden Ring, unless my memories are false. I'm going to anchor it down here, and I am going to kind of just expand this a little bit. You don't need to focus on it too much because we're going to put a UI element in it anyway. I'm going to come back down here now and create an image in this that I'm going to call, you can call it background if you want, because this is what's going to be for me. I'm going to set it to a size that I think is appropriate, and I'm going to make sure I copy the colors and style of my other UI elements. So in this place, in this case, it will be the quick slots. So I'm just going to go to my quick slots here. That's status bars. Whoops. And after I go to quick slots, I'm going to click on any of these here, go to the image, and I'm just going to copy the component. I'm going to right click on a new image component here and paste component values. This is future step. I forgot to untick raycast target. Please do that. This is not a raycast target. I will do it after the video. Okay, next we're going to change our rune count, or rather set up our rune count here by creating a text mesh pro asset or text field in here. And then we're going to just initialize it at 0. And if you want to be like Elden Ring, it's going to hug the right side of the box. And if you want it not touching the walls, just put a buffer here on the right. I'm going to say maybe 5 or 15. Also, I've expanded this and stretched it out, so it's always going to be stretched out to the size of this box, which is why you see stretch there in the UI. Now, I'm going to line up this rune count with my quick slots as good as I can. If you want to get really nitty-gritty with it, you should actually measure it and make sure it's the exact same space away from the left and the right. So by that I mean like this box should be the same space away from the right side of the screen that your UI quick slots are from the left side of the screen. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. So player UI HUD manager. Let's go and jump into that script. I'm going to add a header for runes and a serializable field for the text mesh pro UGUI runes text. Runes count text, we'll say. So it's very clear. And let's add a field, or rather a function here, to update this runes count text. Now you can do this two ways. You can set runes count and you could pass an int, and then you could do that from there like we've done before, la-di-da. Or you could just literally not pass this at all, and you could rip this straight from your player stats manager by simply saying runescount.text or runescounttext.text is equal to player UI manager instance local player, the variable we just made. Or you can get it by getting network manager if you want to. Then we're going to say player stats manager dot runes dot toString, just like that. All right, now let's save that. Now, what do we want to do, or how do we want to drop runes from other enemies? Well, first, before we do that, let's go to the player stats manager and let's actually make a function to add these new runes that we're going to get as a drop. So int, we're going to say runes to add, and all we're going to do is say runes plus equals runes to add, and then we're going to call our new UI function player UI manager dot instance dot HUD manager dot update rune count, or set rune count. I can't remember what I called it. Add, nope, set runes count. Yes, that's it. So we have a way to set it. Cool. Let's jump back over to our project. Let's go to the AI stats manager, which does not exist. So we can put this in the character stats manager. That's fine. If you want AI characters and players to drop runes on death, this is better anyway. I know if you get invaded and kill an invader in Elden Ring, they do drop runes for you. So if you want to do that, we're going to use it on is dead changed. So we're going to create a new script here, or you could if you want to, rather, for the AI stats manager. And if not, we're just going to jump into the character stats manager. I will put mine in the character stats manager because both player and AI can drop runes if you want them to. So I will make a public header here for runes dropped on death. I'm going to say 50 just to make sure this works. I'm not really thinking of a number for any reason. This is just a number I pull out of the air. And now under on is dead change, you could just do that right here. But what we're going to do, because we're going to be neat, is we're going to make an actual function for this because it's going to take in some properties that we need to consider. Like, for instance, do you want to give all the runes to a client and not the host? Or do you want to give partial runes? Because I know in Elden Ring, you don't get as many runes as the main host player if you connect to them as a phantom, I do believe. The same is true for Dark Souls. So let's go to the AI character combat manager, and wherever you want, and honestly, you put this in the inventory manager if you want, whatever makes most sense for you, I'm putting it in the combat manager. We're going to say award runes on death, because I consider this a thing that is combat. You could say that runes are in your stats or inventory, so you can make an argument there too. But award runes on death, AI character combat manager, make it pass a player manager variable. Copy this line we just wrote if you wrote it with me. We're going to say AI character combat manager award runes on death. We're going to pass the player by going to the player UI manager instance local player, because this runs on both the host and the client when the AI dies. So it's going to basically fetch whichever local player has the UI. Also make a check for if the character is dead. Forgot to do this. We should not be dropping items or awarding runes if they're brought back to life somehow, because this is on is dead changed. And right now it would run if it was changed to true or false, but we only want it to run if is dead is changed to true. Okay, back over on the AI character combat manager now. Award runes on death. Let's make some notes here. The first thing we want to do is we have to check if this player is on the same team or friendly to the host. We don't want to give runes to an invading player if the host, for example, kills a regular character or a boss. So we're going to say if the player is on character group, I call team, I can't remember here. I'm going to say character group. I probably called it the same thing as Nephilim. Yes, I did. If character group is equal to character group dot team2 return. Now, yours is probably more intricate than mine if you have multiple monsters and creatures set up, but I just have team 1 and team 2. Team 1 is the player, team 2 is everything that's not the player, or rather team 1 is friendly, team 2 is unfriendly is a better way to say it. If you want to give less runes or more runes to a client versus a host, this is the place you would do that. You can simply make a check for if the player is host, or you could say if network manager.singleton.isServer or is host. Depending on how you have your server set up, there's a bunch of ways you can do this, and multiple can be valid. So I'm just going to say using unity.netcode is how you get this network manager.singleton to not throw a hissy fit at you. And I'm just going to check for network manager singleton.isServer, or you can do is host. And I'm not actually going to award different runes for player versus client, just because I don't feel like it. If you want to, go for it. I'm just going to comment this out. But I put it here in case someone wants to see. This is a very simple way of doing it. You just alter the rune count here and then proceed that way and return, or do an else statement if you're not the host. And lastly, award the runes, considered rune altering items here, or like effects. So if you have some kind of thing that's equipped that adjusts how many runes you take in, then factor that into your math when you're adding the runes. Then we're going to say player.player stats manager, add runes, and we're going to pass the runes count, which is on our AI character, and then it's on our character stats manager, and then it's on runes awarded on death. So AI character, stats manager, character stats manager, runes dropped on death. Okay, that looks good. Let's save that. I think we can test it now. Just dragging your rune count variable under the rune count text. I'm going to rename that to runes count text just because if it ever comes unhooked, it's easier to find. Hopefully it never comes unhooked, but you never know. Save that, go back into the game here now. We got our nice undead. I'm going to drop his health to 0 so he falls to the floor and dies tragically. You can see I have 0 runes and boom, I have 50. Now, that's really cool, but to be honest, I don't like how it updates instantly, and Elden Ring doesn't do that. What if you kill a bunch of creatures in a row and you want to see the runes pile up as you get more and more kills? Well, let's go to the set rune count and make it require a variable of runes to add, like we discussed previously. So what we're going to do now is make a pending rune count above the normal rune count, which will show how many runes you got stacked up that are about to add to your stats. So copy the text field, call this runes to add text, and what we're going to do is just put it right above the runes like that. And we're going to make, say, plus 500 here, so that will show what you're about to get. So if you kill multiple enemies in rapid succession, this number will keep adding up before it adds it all to your runes. So how do we do this? Well, first let's copy our text field, and we're going to, like I said, change the name here to runes to add text. This is under the player UID HUD manager, by the way. Next, under set runes count, we're going to make an coroutine, or a coroutine, private I enumerator. What am I going to call this? Let's call it wait, and then update rune count. All right, so what are we going to do here? Well, we got this runes to add thing, and you could pass it here, but we're going to do it a simpler way, actually. What we're going to do is come right up here, and then under runes, let's make a private int pending runes to add is equal to 0. So this is going to keep track of all the runes you've stacked up if you keep killing creatures or creatures keep dying. So pending runes to add, we're going to say plus equals runes to add. So whatever you pass in this function. Now, every time we do this too, we're going to add the runes we got to our pending rune count. So it can get added to multiple times. If you kill an enemy, boom. You kill another one, boom. You kill another one, boom. So what do we do after that? Well, we want to check to see if we're running this coroutine. So to do that, we have to store it as a local variable. We're going to say private coroutine. And we can call this whatever we want. I'm going to call it wait, then add runes coroutine. So you only want to run this one time at a time, not multiple times. That's why we're doing this. So we're going to make sure we're only going to run it once by checking this variable. So we're going to say wait for potentially more runes, and then add them all after at once, after X time using this coroutine. So we're going to say if runes to add coroutine does not equal null, we're going to say stop coroutine, wait, then add runes coroutine. And then we're going to say wait, then add runes coroutine equals start coroutine, wait, then update rune count. All right, so cool. We have a way to make sure we're only running it once at a time. Now, what do we do in here? Well, we want to keep track of a timer, and while that timer is doing stuff, we want to see if our rune count changes and then update it if it does. Very simple. So we're going to add another variable here, a serializable field. We're going to call this, it's going to be type float, and we're going to call this rune update count delay timer. I'm going to say it's equal to 3, or actually 2.5. That's what I'm going to set it to. So you can change this. I make it serializable so you can change it in the inspector, but this is the amount of time it's going to wait to see if you get more runes. And we're going to say runes update, or we're going to say the timer is equal to our runes update count delay timer. And then we're going to say while the timer is above 0, we're just going to make it go down towards 0. Just count down in seconds by saying timer minus equals time.delta time. Make sure you say yield return null within this while loop or it's not going to run properly. And now, before we move on, we're basically going to update the rune count initially. So we're going to say int runes to add is equal to pending runes to add. And then we're going to set the pending runes to add text field. So let's do that. So this is the text field above the rune count. We're going to say runes to add text.text is equal to runes to add dot to string. Now, if at any point while running this coroutine, for some reason, the pending runes to add is changed, so if the runes to add does not equal the pending runes to add, We know that we've changed that and we've killed another monster. So let's update it again by saying runes to add.text is equal to pending runes to add. And then we can say runes to add is equal to pending runes to add, and then runes to add.text is equal to runes to add toString. So 1, wait for the timer to reach 0 in case more runes are queued up. 2, if more runes are queued up and the amount that we had when we started this coroutine does not match the amount we have now, then update it again, the text fields I mean. And then finally, what we want to do is basically hide the runes to add texts and then update our actual runes count to match what we have now all together. And we just do that by going to the local player and getting their total amount of runes. So we can say runes to add.text is enable is equal to false. And then we can say runes to add.enable is equal to true. Okay, I'm going to delete this commented out line here. We can save that. Now, go in and add your variables in the game here. Let's save the prefab. Let's try this out. So if I go to scene view, I got 3 undead here. I'm going to drop them all at once or very fast within one another, whichever. And then if I drop their current health to 0, you should see boom, plus 50. Cool, that's working. Now if I go down to this one, do it really fast, it should say boom, plus 100. Yep, that's working. Pause the game again, go down to the third one, and then do it again, boom, plus 150. And now it should update after 2.5 seconds, and yep, there it is, 150. All right, let's just add a plus to that because I think it doesn't look as appealing without the plus. I'm going to do that by saying quotation marks plus, then we're going to say plus runes to add. So I'll give a space too so it's not touching, and do the same thing down here, and let's go back and test that again and make sure it's working. Do the same thing in here, boom, plus 50, looks very cool. I'm going to wait for that one to fade out, boom, plus 50. That's plus 100. Okay, so I'm in an error here. I forgot to reset the actual pending runes count. So when we end this, let's also make sure that we set the pending runes amount to 0. So reset pending runes. Update rune count, reset pending runes, and hide the pending runes text. So it would be pending runes to add is equal to 0. All right, let's save that. Try that one more time. All right, current health, 0, plus 50. It should reset to 0. And then boom, plus 50, and this one should be plus 100. Yeah, working as intended. That adds so much, such a simple effect, but it's so nice. So I'm just gonna kill, okay, I had to kill Dirk too to make sure that works as well. So that does add a nice little bit of polish to the counter. It's very simple. If you want to, you can also add a sound effect to that. And if you want to do it too, you could add a small little particle effect to the player. Sometimes I feel that can be a bit too much though, especially if you're killing a lot of enemies. But it would be cool if you added a particle effect that maybe scaled in intensity depending on the amount of runes you got or depending on the enemy that you defeated. Now, you should go and write some data in your saving and loading character to save these runes and load these runes. You know how to do that by now, so I will leave that to you. On the next video, I will do that, but also we will start the UI for our character leveling up system. So basically, you'll be able to spend these runes. We'll write a simple little formula that will make the price go up every time you level up, etc. And we'll make it so you can choose your stats like an Elden Ring and level up a bunch of times at once. Doing level design and all that good stuff was a bit of fun, but I'm very glad to be back and doing this kind of thing. As always, I hope you all learned something today, and thank you very much for joining me. I hope your weekend is lovely, and I want to give an immense thank you and a shout out to my patrons. It is because of each and every one of you this series exists. Also, I say it like every video, massive shout out to Halo Burner. Thank you for your continued support, my friend. It is greatly appreciated. You are an absolute legend. All right, guys, that's it for me. I will see you guys next week.